Hey everyone, UIM here, and today I wanted to make a hopefully semi-short, I don't think it'll actually be short now that I think about it, Giants Foundry minigame smithing guide specifically for UIM level 3s. Now, unlike my blockjacking guide, which is catered to 10 HP, this is really going to be catered to level 3s and then also UIM because we don't have a bank, and so it's a little bit more of a unique method than it would be, for example, for hardcore level 3s or regular iron level 3s, which can bank. And because of that, the better method would be maybe MLM to 99 and then utilize all of that. Or to make bars at Blast Furnace and then take those bars and then use them here at Giants Foundry. But for us, we can't do that. And so I wanted to show this method. I basically have been doing this since I finished the quest, and the only requirement for doing this is I think it's Sleeping Giants quest. So with the Sleeping Giants quest, you will be able to kind of do at least one round to get a feel for it. But even then, I still didn't quite grasp exactly what I was supposed to be doing, so I'm going to cover that. Another thing to know is that you don't have to be super high smithing to do this, but you will need GP. I have like 311k on me right now. I've got about 60 mil GP, so I'm not stressing, but it is a really good method for not losing GP. Another thing I want to mention is it is not the best method, in my opinion, for profitability for GP to XP ratio. That would be mithril plate bodies at Blast Furnace with ice gloves, but that's going to be at 68 smithing. So maybe you're not going to do that. It is a little bit on the lower XP rate. It ends up being around 108, 110k XP versus my estimation right now is that I'm able to get about 120k XP per hour doing this method. So not the greatest, but a lot better than a really low XP and costly smithing method, especially early levels. And also you get some additional perks like the outfit rewards, which we'll talk about. So what I did is the Night Sword to get 29 smithing. Then I did Taurus Trap and used my lamps on smithing to get to 34 smithing. I made a couple of cannonballs for killing the Merlin's Bat and also the Varrock Southeast Bear for Druidic Ritual. So with those two, I made a little bit of cannonballs. That got me to, basically had to get to 35 with a couple of steel bars for that. At Ardi Monastery, I just mined and then smithed them at Ardi. And then from 35 to this quest, I think it got me to like 38 smithing. So I started and have been doing Giants Foundry only since 38 smithing, and I've barely trained here, and I feel like I'm just going through levels like crazy and barely spending any GP. So that's why I like this method. I'm getting more comfortable with it. I'm not doing the most advanced things with it, but it's really great. Now, when it comes to the gear you want, I would recommend having Graceful. Obviously, Graceful is great for energy restoration, and you are running around in the game as well as when you're going to buy your plate bodies at Horvik's armor shop, or I think it's Louis Legg's plague shop in Alcaharid. To get here, the best method is the minigame teleport, and we'll talk about that. But first and foremost, you don't actually need an Imcando hammer or a hammer in your inventory. You will need a Chronicle, but you're going to want to have these two particular slots empty for the actual method because you're going to be getting the blade that you're going to be making for the giant. So you do need 21 inventory spaces for that, but technically I could put this in Hespori. It's a pretty safe minigame, other than if you have to run through here, you might get hit, but it's unlikely you would ever die, even if you DC'd, if you click the cave from when you're running and you have the run energy. However, I could not be keeping a Draymond Staff and a Crab Claw, and then I could just put this in Cano Hammer in my PoH, and then also just have the Chronicle, and I would be fine. The thing is, you are going to have these empty when you're doing the minigame, so I have 21 slots, which is exactly what you need for 3 rounds. The best method that I've figured out this far is basically 6 mithril plate bodies and 15 steel plate bodies from Horvik's using an alt, and I'll show that in a moment because I obviously don't have any on me. Now to get here is the minigame teleport, as I said, and basically when it comes to the minigame teleport, you will be able to teleport pretty often. If you're slightly AFKing even between the rounds, you're going to be fine to be able to just teleport straight back. If for some reason you're doing it really efficiently, every round, and on the second round, I believe, or it's every 2 rounds, whatever it is, you're going to have to get here another way. So how do you do that? Well, Obviously, the best method, secondary method, is going to be Ring of the Elements, because you can teleport straight to the fire altar and then run through here. Once you get to about right here, even over here, you're going to be running through to this entrance. You can just go ahead and click on the cave, because you'll be right around over here. And you can just click on the cave and it'll automatically run you through the hill giants and you'll be fine. So you only really need Chronicle, GP, and then any kind of energy gear if possible. Eventually I'm going to have the full smithing outfit, and so I won't have any graceful because I'm going to keep wearing my crab helmet until I can't anymore. Another item that's really useful for this would obviously be the ice gloves. I am going to come out with a guide for how to get 0 combat XP ice gloves that I did with Sun the other day, so keep a lookout for that in the 10 HP combat methods that I keep releasing constantly. I still have a lot more to make and release, but I wanted to come out with this guide because I feel like it's a little more useful to the people who I know who have been asking questions about it. Ice gloves are not only 0 combat XP, but now they are storable. So that is a really nice benefit with the entire outfit. If you don't have the entire outfit as a UIM, then you can't pull them out from your PoH. And so since you can shove those ice gloves into the smithing gloves and make them imbued, it's worthwhile in order to have a storable ice gloves. Are buckets fine with water at Blast Furnace and here at Giant's Foundry? Absolutely. But it's just a nice perk, and you get the perk from the full outfit, which we'll discuss. So I'm going to actually do an entire round. So this video might actually be kind of long. You can see O's over here already. We're doing some Giants Foundry together. But I'm going to go over the minigame. Then we're going to go get the items for the minigame. And then we're going to do the minigame. So that's kind of how I'm going to structure this. Horvik is going to be your shop. This is where you're going to buy all of the items you want to unlock with Foundry Reputation. You get Foundry Reputation every single time you make one particular blade and turn it into him. That's when you're going to get the XP drop. That's when you're going to get GP back. And that's how you're getting majority of the XP from the minigame. Speaking of XP rates, I recognize that this is not necessarily the best meta for UIM level 3. At 68 smithing, you can make mithril plate bodies, and if you can buy that specific ore from the shop at Blast Furnace and then make them at Blast Furnace and then sell them, you could be profiting at about 108 to 100k KXP per hour, versus this method with my best estimations and testing with an alt is about 120 KXP per hour max, and it is at a little bit of a loss, sometimes a profit. I can't really tell. I think I'm losing a little bit of GP over time, and I've been here since 38, I believe, and I'm 73, so I think it's worth it. Here are all the different items you have. You have the double ammo mold, which is great for 10 HP. Don't need that though. You have these ore packs and smithing catalysts. None of that really matters. What really matters here is the smith's tunic, trousers, smith boots, and most importantly, the smith gloves. I bought my smith gloves first, but now I'm going for the tunics next because I just wanted to get my ice gloves into one of the items as soon as possible. And now I'm going to work on the more expensive ones first so that I get the outfit a little faster. And I'm hoping that I'll actually get the outfit before level 80 smithing, but we'll see how it works. I might be a little bit over, a little bit less. We'll see. The perk of the actual smith's tunic, trousers, boots, and gloves combined is that they each provide a 20% chance to the increase of the speed of a smithing action at an anvil. Now, in perspective, you might think, well, what's the point of that? That's not that great. Cool, it's just aesthetic. I want it for that purpose. That's one good reason to get it still, because you can store it in your PoH and it looks cool and it's a smithing outfit. But this particular benefit does save you time. Now, and some might say, well, most skilling outfits, they aren't helpful when you're getting 99, but they save you time when you get 200 mil. Now, putting in perspective, it all depends on what you do. But every single time you use a bar on an anvil, you are saving time because of this outfit, right? It's a tick saved per bar, at least with the full outfit. So that is a really, really good benefit because it's 100%. It's not like a proc, like you might get lucky. And to put in perspective, if you were to do 1.7 mil steel darts, for example, and you were to do steel, meaning making and smithing steel dart tips at Blast Furnace, which is semi-inefficient, but you get, I can't actually quite calculate if it's fully inefficient or not, but you get all of the fletching XP from that as well. It's relatively affordable. I think it's only about 25 to 30 mil. So with that, you would save 28 hours from all the ticks that you save from utilizing the outfit while making those steel bar start tips. So that adds up, right? It adds up per bar as you're actually smithing it into an item. And even if you did mithril plate bodies, you're going to save time by doing that. Now, whether you do mithril plate bodies to 200 mil smithing or not as a UIM level 3, that's up to you. But in terms of the actual time saved, it's going to be worthwhile getting the outfit. That and these smith gloves benefit. So there is also the colossal blade. I'm not going to use it. And then there are these molds. Molds are always going to be unlocked by reputation as well. And they're going to have a specific smithing level. They're going to basically give you some points, and they're going to help you make better swords to get better XP and better GP, etc. The molds themselves are level capped, so make sure when you're buying, you're not just buying the next mold, you're buying a mold that will match your level, or that you can either do already based on your level, or that you're about to get. So for example, I have everything except for the 79, the 80, and the 81 left, and before I hit 79, I will buy this, even if I don't have the full outfit. Likely though, if I'm really close to the full outfit and I only need 450 and I don't want to be above 80, then yeah, I probably will skip this mold. But you're going to be buying the molds primarily early on in your levels up to this point, because now I only have 3 left to unlock. And the reason why these molds matter is they help you, again, create better swords for turning into Kovac to get that XP. Now, when you talk to him, you use commission. He'll give you what you are commissioned to make sword-wise. And then over here is the mold jig, which is currently empty. And then the crucible along with the waterfall. You also have some pile of buckets over here. You have the polishing wheel, the grindstone, the trip hammer, and then you also have over here the lava pool. There is also a bank here if you need to unnote something. So if you did have some bars that are noted for some reason, then you probably could utilize this method for that as well. But I don't think that there's a way for us to get noted bars as UIM level 3s. So how does this all work? Well, first and foremost, if you don't have an ice gloves, you're going to need at least 1 bucket in your slot. So you're going to need 1 more inventory slot. You can fill that bucket up with waterfall. It's not a big deal to not have ice gloves. It's just easier to have them, right? That's how it works. Same with blast furnace. You can just refill it every single time. What do you actually use the water on? Well, once you come over here and you set up with the mold, which you can't do until you commission, and we'll show that once I go get the plate bodies and we come back and I do a full round. I'm just explaining it all before we do it so that it makes more sense when we do it. You're going to be able to pick that mold, and then you're going to come up here and input and fill bars or plate bodies or plate legs into the crucible. Then you're going to pour that crucible into molten lava into this mold. And the moment you want to actually pick up the sword that you're going to be using all of these tools around here to actually get ready to turn into Kovac, that's when you need that bucket of water, which will be emptied if you're picking it up for the first time and you'll have to refill, or you'll just have ice gloves and you'll pick it up. The first thing is there's always a sequence to the first one, which is always the trip hammer. So the first part of the round is always going to be trip hammer, and you're always going to be at max heat. And basically you have 2 major indicators, which we'll look at. One is your heat indicator. How hot is it to the right? And then your cooling down indicator, which is to the left. So as you're moving that bar to the right, that means you're getting the heat up, and if it's moving to the left, it's because you're cooling it down. So your primary 2 methods for heating and cooling are going to be the waterfall and the lava pool. Pretty easy to understand. There is these 2 little options, heat or dunk, cool or quench. And basically the second option is always going to be the one that goes a little bit faster. So it'll make that heat go up really, really fast, versus this heat perform will be a little bit slower. So what I likely do is I'll right click dunk or right click quench to get that bar either up in heat or down. And then as I get closer, I'll try to time it, and then I'll just click on it directly to slowly get a couple of ticks. So there's basically a fast option and a slow option. If you do the slow option, then it's going to take a lot longer to do a round. So you're probably going to want to use dunk and use quench, but when you're learning, you might make some mistakes and have to go back and forth between the waterfall and the lava pool. So you'll always start every round with the trip hammer after you've picked up the mold, but you need to get to the trip hammer basically using it once the heat has come down just enough to be in one of those bars, which will be the red bar. And so you'll probably always start the game by picking it up and then going over to cool it down in the waterfall and then going to the trip hammer. And we'll talk about the phases as we go along. So that's pretty much it. Once you've finished all the phases, then you'll be able to hand them into Kovac. But here's the thing. Each mold and each particular type of, I think, bars is going to affect which kind of 3 bars you get. So there's multiple phases to a sword. It could be a green phase, it could be a yellow phase, or it could be a red phase. If it is a green or red phase, you're always going to want to have the most heat to the furthest right into that bar. And as you use one of the items, like polishing wheel or the trip hammer, you're going to be, the heating is going to be going down. And as it goes down, you might have to get the heat up with Dunk Preform or Heat Perform, and we'll see the actions with the Easy Giant Foundry plugin will help with that, and you'll see that when we do it. If it is the yellow one, which is the unique phase, that one you want to be on the far left, meaning you will only start it when it's the coolest possibly at the end of that bar, and as you utilize something like the grindstone, that's going to heat it up, and you're going to be moving to the right. So it does get a little weird when you're first starting, because you're like, am I moving backwards? Am I moving forward? Do I heat? Do I cool? It can just kind of be weirdly confusing for somebody who's just starting. And I just wanted to mention that before I actually just get all of the plate bodies. So let's go ahead and teleport to Varrock, and we're going to go head to Horvik's armor shop. And so you can see that it is 120 XP an hour with an alt, but you are factoring in like running in to Varrock every single time as a part of that XP method. And overall, it's really not too bad. Now, in terms of plugins, I mentioned that Giant's Foundry plugin. There's also a way where you can, I think, have shift click buy and sell one. But you're going to come over to Horvik, and hopefully your alt is already in trade mode with 25-minute logout timer, so it can just sit there and you can barely click it. And if, for example, you are over the plate body limit or over the steel body plate limit and you try to buy, you will not be able to because you're an Ironman, and so it'll tell you that it's overstocked. But the beauty of an alt is that they can buy these up, and you can sell one, and then you can buy one back. Now, I'm doing it a little bit slow here just because I want to kind of have this method be considerably realistic for somebody who might be going a little bit slow. So there's our first 6 mithril plate bodies. We're going to be utilizing 2 every round, and we're going to be able to do 3 rounds. And then we're going to buy the steel plate bodies, which is the part that takes the most time because that's the most items that you're going to obtain. And I had to buy 5 of them on my alt. So your alt will sit here and sell, and it can sell noted versions, right? So you can just have your alt sitting here if you want, with basically all of the plate bodies. Now, you can't, unfortunately, buy like 5 at a time or anything like that. And Sun and I were even talking about just kind of the foolishness behind buying items and things in game, like wire feathers, like only purchasable 100 at a time. Like, it doesn't actually stop bots or anything like that. But we digress, and here we go. We've got a full inventory. So it's that quick. We don't have to hop worlds. We don't have to worry about any of that. We just buy and sell. It costs a little bit of GP on the alt, but so far I haven't really lost any major GP buying mithril plate bodies and steel plate bodies and then selling them to the shop for my UIM to purchase. Then we get the minigame teleport up. If you didn't have that, then obviously you'd use the Ring of Elements air altar. If you didn't have that, you're probably going to have to use a home teleport or chronicle and run through and pay 10 GP. Or if you have Prince Ali's quest done, you won't have to pay the 10 GP. But that's a real annoying pain point to me, in my opinion. So thankful for the Ring of Elements. All right, so once we're in here, we're going to go ahead and take on the commission. And you'll see now that we're basically going to be able to look at the mold. And every mold has a forte, blades, and tips. It has one of each. And so those molds are going to help you get the best in slot that you can for each particular one. Now, as you can see, there's always going to be a highlight of which one to select that has the best specs for you. I don't think too much about it. I just click the green one. And then from there, I click the next green one. And then from there, I click the next green one. And you'll see the commission will be, decent. Sometimes it's better. Sometimes it's a little worse. Honestly, I don't really care all that much. You could probably be super optimal. But once you've done that and selected all of them, and sometimes they'll kind of weirdly unselect them. So just select them all and then set the mold. Once the mold is set, we're going to come over to the Crucible. And you can shift your inventory tags for the plate bodies so you're not trying to actually wear them. And instead of wearing them, just click on it and use them on the Crucible. And you're going to always do 2 for the mithril plate body and then 5 for the steel plate body. So once we're in this position, we've got 28 bars are full, and that means that once we have 28 bars worth of items, whether that's plate legs, plate bodies, or bars, then we'll be able to actually do a full round of Giant's Foundry. We'll pour that Crucible. Again, you have to take off these items while you're picking up this giant sword, and then we'll start the minigame. So we've started the minigame. As I mentioned, you'll always have to start with the trip hammer, and once it turns red, it's basically because this is the heat measurement right here, and as we do it, you'll see that the heat is going to be going down as we're using the trip hammer because this is a red phase of the bar. There's also the green phase of the bar, which operates just like this. You want it to be all the way to the right with heat up, and then you want to be using the trip hammer or the polishing wheel, and it'll slowly tick down. And on the left hand corner here, you can see in the plugin, it's telling us we've got 5 actions left, but we only have about 1 action of heat. So we'll fill up heat a little bit, sometimes a little bit above using the quench. If you go right to 4, it actually procs down 1. As you can see, it just did that. And so that can be kind of annoying as well. So I always go a little bit over. It's a little bit more time, but I think it's worth it for the mistake. Right when you hit that, you'll see the actions reset, and now we're in a different phase on this. We're in the yellow phase, which means we need to get to the far left-hand side by cooling down before we can use the grindstone. So again, red and green are starting heated up at the far right. As you're using it, you're going down, and it's cooling down, and you have to reheat it if you need to get more actions. And for the yellow bar, it's the opposite. Sometimes you'll get a yellow box around, and if you do that, it'll kind of custom put them in synergy a little bit more, but you can still see that I'm a little short, so I'll do like 1 quench reform, and then I'll be at plenty of enough actions with the heat left to be able to get through this phase. This bottom phase is completely random in terms of it starting off with the trip hammer, and then if you, I did this purposely by the way, if you are on a grindstone or on the polishing wheel or the trip hammer for too long, the quality of the blade will go down, and that's where you'll hear that sound, and it'll go down just a little bit. If you're AFKing, it'll just keep going down. It'll basically ruin the bar quality, which will ruin your XP and your GP and everything. So the green one here is just like the red one. We got it all the way to the far right of the phase. And now we're here and we've got 24 actions to get this bar past that phase. So I'm not going to make any more mistakes, but I did want to show like the quality because it's confusing when there's 3 bars and everything's moving in different directions. And maybe it's your first time. You're like, what the heck am I doing? So with the green one, we need to heat it up just like the red one in order to finish all of those actions. 13's probably good enough. Sometimes if you're like only 1 heat above, it can kind of be annoying, especially if you don't get that proc where it'll like give you benefits and make things a little bit faster. But overall, the phases, there'll be many, many more phases depending on what you're making. And again, you only want to ever go right when it's 0, and you'll get the next phase, whatever you're assigned. It's randomly generated, so it's not always the exact same thing on the bottom. It might not be, might not be red, yellow, green, yellow. It could be red, green, yellow, green. Basically, you'll just get used to utilizing the lava pool and the waterfall in order to finish the entire bar. So right now, we're making this preform into an actual colossal blade. I need about 10 actions. I don't have enough, so I'm just going to go ahead and complete that. Just have it a little bit over so it's safe to finish. And that's going to be, once this is done and you've reached the far right, you're going to essentially get the completed entire sword that you're going to basically turn into Kovac. So I'm going to hand it in, and you'll see that he's going to give me an XP drop. He's going to give me a time. He's going to give me a quality. He's going to give me my best in comparison and how much GP that I earned back from this and how many swords I've actually made. And then he'll ask you if you want another commission. You can take that commission if you have bars. If you don't, you can click no. It's not like there's some crazy benefit for continuing or something like that, like mounts in a row or anything like that. So that's pretty much all there is to it. Once you've done that first inventory too, you can leave these in here. So if you were a little bit short inventory space, you should have no problem because you could take them off. And then once you're in here, you don't need anything in your inventory other than the plate bodies. So that is 1 million smithing XP, my first mill. And also I am basically 3.5K and should be able to get the Smith's tunic today because I'm pretty sure I'll be able to do them. I think it's around 100. I should have probably looked, but I think it's like around 100 is what 100 to 200 is what I'd expect per Foundry per 2 mithril and 5 steel plate bodies. So it could take a while. I'm kind of curious because I bought all the molds along the way. I'm kind of curious if I'll actually be able to get the smithing outfit by 80. I'm not entirely sure. I'd like it to be 80. But again, I'm here for the outfit primarily, and I'll probably leave the other things for the collection log for another time when I want to just basically grind and get the collection log complete. So that's pretty much all there is to it. Other than that, it's about 120 KXP per hour from my estimation after testing it at this point, and it's been that way for a while. Obviously, I'm above 68 smithing, so I could go make mithril plate bodies at blast furnace right now, even with the smithing gloves, the ice gloves, but I'm going to go ahead and stay here until I get the full outfit so I can store my ice gloves. And that's pretty much all there is to it. You can actually wear what kind of ever fashion you want. I probably could wear graceful and drop my arty cloak and reobtain it. It's really not that big of a deal, and it's safe area. So if you're in Hesperia, again, you don't have to worry about anything like that. I don't think that there's anything more for me to say. It's relatively straightforward. Once you get the feel of it, going between the trip hammer and the lava pool and the waterfall and the grindstone and the lava pool and the polishing wheel, and then you get used to switching between the trip hammer and the grindstone and the polishing wheel, or trip hammer, polishing wheel, grindstone, etc. And you get comfortable with those transitions. It's like mindless, right? But at first, when you're first starting, it's kind of a little confusing and you're thinking, I have like 38 smithing. What am I supposed to do? For steel and iron, you can also do that as the early method. That's what I did until I was able to switch to mithril and steel. And I can't remember exactly what the numbers are. I'll try to put them in the description below, but you can also do that with steel and plate. And you can also, again, if you wanted to, you could use plate legs as well, though you'll need more inventory space per inventory, which is why I switched to plate bodies. And you can buy them here at the Alcaherod shop. So if for some reason you finish a round, your minigame teleport isn't up, and you don't feel like going to Horvik's and using plate bodies, you could do the Ring of Elements Fire Altar, run and pick up plate legs and have your alt there. So I don't know really what is preferred, but I prefer plate bodies just because I have less inventory space and it's easy to do. I could go do an entire farm run. I could go do what I need for gaining ultra compost. I can do Birdhouse run and giant seaweed and get that into my bag. And I can do all of that relatively easily in between every 3 if I wanted, or whenever I'm doing it. So you're not really losing time on farm or anything like crafting if you're doing this method, which is fantastic. You're not losing on farm, herblore, or crafting. So that's really, really nice. For other situations with smithing, you do have to minigame teleport back, but it's kind of the same thing. So if you wanted to do mithril plate bodies or steel dart tips or mithril dart tips at blast furnace, you should be able to do that too if you're not too lazy. I like to use the minigame teleport on fishing trawler so I can take the port straight to Catherby like very quickly. So I like using my minigame teleport for that, and then I might use my Ring of Elements to get back here in order to kind of use the cooldown on that to make my farm run faster to get back to smithing. But that's pretty much it. Hope this helped, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.